Yes, you've seen the title, this is how to solo the Nightmare Icigool Raid and win every time. I've seen a lot of videos talking about how to beat the raid, but they're usually always with another person, so for all those lonely people out there, I got you. I'm also going to be helping anybody that needs it, so if you want to see how I'm going to be helping people out, just skip ahead to the Helping with Nightmare Raid chapter of the video. Sorry this video is like really late after the update released, but anyway, I've talked enough, so let me just get started. The first Loomian you want to get is going to be Falkyrie. The nature you would want for this Falkyrie is going to be very frail, smart, nimble, just to hit harder, make sure it outspeeds Soulburst Icigool, Afterbane of Haste and future raid bosses, as well as it being one of the best natures, if not the best nature for PvP Falkyrie. For the item, I would recommend going for the Light Essence, since that's the typing of its most powerful attacks. The ability should be Awakening, as it boosts the light type attack stab bonus even further, going from 25% to 50%, and Applied Frustration isn't that useful because you can just use Magnify, which brings us on to the moves. For the moves, you're going to want Nova Blast, which is a very powerful move. Then, like I mentioned earlier, you should also have the move Magnify, just to boost your ranged attack even further, which is useful if your Dyeborg is knocked out and the Icigool's range defense has been boosted. The next move is very important and is going to be Luster Loot, just so you can heal up by a lot and also damage at the same time. Please do not think that Rejuvenate will be a better option because I made that mistake when I first did the raid. Anyway, moving on to the last move, and it is going to be Flash and Flee, which is very useful if your Falkyrie is low and will be knocked out next turn, or for an easy switch to Dyeborg or Obsidrugon whilst damaging at the same time. And then for the TP set, I chose to copy off of Jammy Jamie's PvP set, which is 64 health, 36 energy, 200 ranged attack, and it would usually be 200 speed, but if you want Falkyrie to be even better suited for this raid specifically, I would recommend exchanging all of the 200 speed stats for 200 melee defense stats, because either way it will outspeed Soulburst Icigool Afterbane of Haste. The next Loomian you would want to get is Dyeborg. The nature you want to get is going to be very robust, clumsy, sluggish. Now the reason for this is because you want your Dyeborg to survive as long as possible for its support moves against Soulburst Icigool, and since Soulburst Icigool is a melee attacker, very robust will be very helpful. However, you can do robust, clumsy, clever if you want to use one Dyeborg for future raids or PvP instead of two separate Dyeborgs for melee and ranged defense like I'm doing. The item I chose is going to be a health amulet because of what I said before about trying to keep Dyeborg alive for as long as possible. Now since Dyeborg is mainly for support moves, the ability is going to be its secret ability Handy, which adds +1 priority to support moves. If you're not sure what +1 priority means, it's like Quick Pounce, which goes first regardless of the Loomian and opposing Loomian's speed stat, unless another +1 priority move is used by the opposing Loomian and that Loomian is faster than yours. Now for the moves, you are going to want Near Enchantment, which will halve the damage from melee attacks for 5 turns, which is quite important due to Soulburst Icigool being a melee attacker. Hypnotize, just to avoid you and your teammate being damaged. Square One, which is by far the most important move as it clears all the boosted stats on the field, and raid bosses usually boost their stats by a lot when a health bar is taken down. And then finally Steel Crusher, just to get at least one attacking move that is super effective against Soulburst Icigool. And then finally for the TP set, I chose to go with a very basic set using 200 melee defense, 200 health and 100 melee attack. You can change this however you want, but I would recommend keeping melee defense very high and health as high as you can make it. The last Loomian you want to get is going to be Obsidrugon. Now Obsidrugon is going to be used as a last resort in case the other two Loomians get knocked out, but anyway, the nature you want to get is going to be very robust, clumsy, sluggish, because you want your Obsidrugon to survive for as long as possible. Another good nature to use will be brawny, robust, very sluggish. For the item, I would recommend going for heavy armor just to give it a little bit extra melee defense. Now the ability has to be Resilience because Soulburst Icigool is a melee attacker, and this ability will help a lot with that due to it raising Obsidrugon's melee defense every time it is hit with a melee attack. For the moves, you're going to want Primal Slash just because Obsidrugon needs a damaging move, and Primal Slash is super effective against all but Icigool. I know it says Body Crash here, but you should get Burrow instead, just to boost melee defense if Icigool spams Icicle Tremor, because that doesn't trigger resilience, which means Obsidrugon's melee defense won't be boosted. Then Beast Slumber for when your Obsidrugon gets low on health, and then finally Drudge so you can boost the power of Primal Slash when Icigool boosts its defense. And then finally for the TP set, I chose to go with 200 health, 4 energy, 96 melee attack and 200 melee defense. Here's everything summarized into a clip so you can just take a screenshot and copy everything from here. I'm going to tell you how to do the raid with a friend first, so if you want to see how to do it solo, just skip ahead. First things first, you want to make sure you and your friend has the same team, and then you're going to want to head straight into the raid with the 2 starting Loomians being Falkyrie and Dyeborg. You can choose between you and your friend who uses what Loomian, but once you're in the raid, the person with the Dyeborg should start with Near Enchantment to halve Icigool's damage, whilst the person with Falkyrie either starts attacking or using Magnify to boost attack. After using Near Enchantment, Dyeborg can use Hypnotize just to make it so Falkyrie can get a few Magnifies off. Whilst the Falkyrie keeps attacking, the Dyeborg should be either using Steel Crusher to help or recovering energy. Now past this point there's not much I need to explain besides Dyeborg should be using Near Enchantment every 5 turns, and Square 1 if Icigool boosts its defense or attack stats. And Falkyrie should be using Magnify and Nova Blast if it's on a high amount of health, but Last Salute if it's on a low amount of health. Repeating this will take you to the end of the raid pretty easily, but in the off case your Falkyrie dies, just switch into your Dyeborg whilst your teammate switches into their Falkyrie and keep going. In total it took me about 7 minutes and 52 seconds to do this with my friend from start to finish. Anyway, moving on to doing the raid solo now, there are 2 different ways you can do this. The first is to start with Dyeborg and keep switching between Dyeborg and Falkyrie with the use of Flash and Flee. Then the other method is to start with Obsidrugon and then use the Dyeborg and Falkyrie switch strat if Obsidrugon ends up dying, which can happen, but Obsidrugon is also very good at soloing the raid. Both methods take about the same time, with method 1 taking me about 10 minutes and 39 seconds, and method 2 taking me 10 minutes and 41 seconds. I'm going to start by explaining method 1 because it can also be used in method 2 in case your Obsidrugon dies. So you want to start with Dyeborg and immediately go for a Near Enchantment. Once that's done you can either choose to Hypnotize Icigool or immediately switch into Falkyrie. Either way, once your Falkyrie is out you just want to get the health down using Nova Blast and Magnify if your Falkyrie is high health, or Lust to Loot if you're mid to low on health, until you get to a point where Flash and Flee will get rid of the last bit of health inside of one of Icigool's bars. This is because you want to switch back into Dyeborg to reuse Near Enchantment because it would have probably been taken away by that time, and so that you're able to use Square 1 if Icigool boosted any stats. All you want to do after that is just keep repeating the steps of using Dyeborg for Near Enchantment and Square 1, switching to Falkyrie, chipping down one of Icigool's health bars till it's low, using Flash and Flee to get rid of the last bit of health, switching into Dyeborg. This should take you to the end of the Nightmare Raid, but if your Falkyrie or Dyeborg ends up dying, don't bother switching into the other and instead switch into Obsidrugon and use the start of method 2, which I'm going to explain now. So the start of method 2 just begins with you using Obsidrugon. Now it's very simple in the fact that you just have to use Drudge and Primal Slash to attack, and then Beast Slumber if you get low on health. I know it says the other move is Body Crash, but just use Burrow instead, and only use Burrow if your defense has been cleared by Icigool, and Icigool is spamming Icicle Tremor, because Icicle Tremor will not trigger resilience, which means your Obsidrugon will not boost its melee defense. This method is a lot less complicated than method 1, but if your Obsidrugon does end up dying, which it can do if Icigool gets a critical hit, just switch into Dyeborg and use Square 1, then use method 1 from there. Now I wouldn't recommend replacing Dyeborg or Obsidrugon, but you can replace Falkyrie in both methods for Eruptodon or Arceus if you want, but I think that Falkyrie just works the best in a solo situation, whereas those two work better if you have a partner. Here is everything you should use on them. I'm not going to explain it in detail because many people have already covered it. If you want to know how to use them effectively in the raid, check out Jammy Jamie's video on it and try to adapt it for a solo raid if you need to. For those people that have skipped to this part of the video to learn how I can help you out, what you want to do is you want to head down to the first link in the description, and it will be a link to me and my friends' joint Discord server. Once you're there, verify your account in the verification channel, and then once that's done, scroll down the channels until you get to the Loomian Legacy section, and then click on the Nightmare Raid help channel. React with the first emote under the message I sent, and then when I'm done helping the people who've reacted before you, I will DM you, and then you just need to give me your Roblox username and DMs, then I'll join you and help. Anyway, that is it for the video. I hope this helps at least a few people out, and I will see you whenever my next Loomian Legacy video is, I guess.